My name is Sarah, and I want to tell you a story about how my life changed when I met a man who made me see myself differently. It all started when I married David. At first, everything seemed perfect. David was charming, funny, and made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. But as time went on, things started to change. David and I had been married for a few years when I began to notice a change in him. At first, everything felt perfect. We would laugh together, go on adventures, and support each other. But then, little by little, I started to hear him making comments about me that made me feel uncomfortable. It all began with small things. One evening, I wore a new dress that I thought was pretty. I was excited to show it off. When I walked into the living room, David looked me up and down and said, "Why don't you wear something more flattering?" His words stung, but I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was just having a bad day, I thought. However, as time went on, the comments became more frequent. David would make remarks about my clothes, my hair, and even my cooking. "Do you really think that top looks good on you?" he would ask with a smirk. Sometimes he would say things like, "You'd look so much better if you lost a few pounds." Each time he spoke, it felt like a small poke to my heart. One day, we were at a family gathering, and I wore a new outfit that I felt good in. It was bright and colorful, and I thought it made me look cheerful. But when I walked over to David, he laughed and said in front of everyone, "You look a bit chubby in that dress, don't you think?" The laughter from our family made my cheeks burn. I tried to laugh it off, but inside, I felt crushed. David always claimed he was joking, but deep down, I could tell he meant it. Each comment chipped away at my self-esteem, like a little hammer hitting a stone. I started to feel small, like I was disappearing with every laugh and every jab. I avoided mirrors because I didn't want to see my reflection. I began wearing baggy clothes to hide my body, thinking maybe if I covered up, David would stop making those comments. I stopped going out with friends because I feared they would see how I had changed and what David had made me feel. When I would try to talk to David about how his words hurt me, he would just brush it off, saying, "I'm only teasing you. You should lighten up." His dismissive attitude made me feel even worse. I wished he could see how much his words affected me. As I spiraled into this cycle of insecurity, I began to skip meals. I thought maybe if I ate less, David would notice and say something nice about my appearance. But no matter how much weight I lost, he never changed his behavior. I felt like I was losing myself, and it scared me. I was trapped in a world of hurtful jokes and constant criticism, and I didn't know how to escape it. I longed for the days when my husband David would compliment me, when he would tell me I was beautiful just the way I was. Instead, I felt alone in my struggle, hiding my true feelings behind a smile that was becoming harder to maintain. I started to feel insecure about my body. I avoided mirrors and would wear baggy clothes to hide my figure. I often found myself skipping meals, hoping that if I ate less, David would notice and say something nice. But no matter how much weight I lost, his comments didn't change. It felt like I was losing myself little by little. One evening, after a long day at work, I sat on the couch feeling defeated. David came home and plopped down beside me, flipping through the channels. "You know, if you just lost a few more pounds, you'd really look amazing," he said casually, as if it was nothing. Those words struck me like a blow. I tried to smile and nod, but inside, I was crushed. That night, I found it hard to sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling a heaviness in my heart. I remembered the woman I used to be, confident, happy, and full of life. I wondered where she had gone. I felt trapped in a cycle of negative thoughts and self-doubt. In the days that followed, I found myself retreating deeper into my own shell. The joy I once had was slowly fading, and I felt like I was living in a fog. My friends began to notice that I was missing from our usual gatherings. I had stopped going to birthday parties, game nights, and even the casual dinners we used to enjoy. I could see the concern on their faces when I turned down their invitations, and it made my heart ache. One evening, I received a text from my best friend, Emma. She always seemed to know when I needed a friend the most. Her message read, "Hey, it's been a while. Let's grab some coffee. I miss you." I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling torn. Part of me wanted to reach out to her, to share everything that was happening, but another part felt like I had to hide my feelings. I didn't want to burden her with my problems. After several minutes of staring at the message, I finally typed back, "Okay, let's do it." I hoped that spending time with Emma would lift my spirits, even just a little. I put my phone down and took a deep breath, trying to prepare myself for what was to come. When the day arrived, I spent extra time getting ready. I picked out a cute outfit, but as I stood in front of the mirror, I felt that familiar wave of doubt wash over me. I wanted to look nice for Emma, but all I could think about was how David's words echoed in my head, reminding me of my flaws. I tried to shake off those thoughts, telling myself I deserved to feel good, even if just for a few hours. When I arrived at the cafe, I spotted Emma sitting at our favorite table by the window. Her face lit up with a smile as she waved me over. I felt a flicker of happiness, and as I approached, I took in the warm atmosphere of the cafe. The smell of fresh coffee and baked goods surrounded me, and for a moment, I forgot about my troubles. "Hey, you look great," Emma exclaimed as I sat down. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile back, even if it felt forced. We started talking about everything: work, new shows we had watched, and even the silly little things that had happened in our lives. But deep down, I felt a heaviness in my heart that I couldn't shake off. As we sipped our coffee, Emma looked at me with concern. "You've been so quiet lately. Is everything okay?" Her question hung in the air, and I felt my heart race. I wanted to be honest with her, to share how David's words had hurt me, but I worried she might not understand. "Yeah, I'm fine," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just busy, you know?" Emma didn't seem convinced, but she nodded and continued chatting about her life. I listened, grateful for the distraction, but I could feel my own troubles bubbling just beneath the surface. As the conversation flowed, I realized how much I missed this connection. Emma's laughter was like a balm to my soul, and for a brief moment, I felt lighter. But as the afternoon went on, the weight of my struggles returned, reminding me that I couldn't hide from my feelings forever. When it was time to leave, I felt torn. I enjoyed my time with Emma, but I knew I needed to confront the issues in my life. As we hugged goodbye, she squeezed my hand and said, "I'm here for you, always. Don't forget that." Her words lingered in my mind as I walked back to my car, a mix of gratitude and sadness filling my heart. I wished I could be as strong as she believed I was. When I met Emma, she greeted me with a warm hug. "I've missed you. What's going on?" she asked, concern in her eyes. I forced a smile and shrugged. "Just busy with work," I replied. But Emma saw right through me. "Sarah, you can tell me the truth. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders," she said gently. I sighed and let the tears flow. I opened up about David's hurtful comments and how I felt about my body. Emma listened patiently, nodding in understanding. "Sweetheart, you are beautiful just the way you are," she said firmly. "You shouldn't let anyone make you feel less than that. You deserve to be happy and confident." Her words touched my heart, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope. After our coffee date, I decided I needed to make a change. I couldn't keep living like this, allowing David's words to define my self-worth. I started to focus on myself more, my feelings, my happiness, and my health. I signed up for a yoga class that Emma had mentioned. The first class was intimidating. I was surrounded by fit women who seemed to move effortlessly. But I reminded myself that I was there to grow, not compare. I began attending classes regularly, and slowly but surely, I started to feel stronger. With each session, I learned to appreciate my body for what it could do rather than how it looked. I discovered a newfound strength within me. My confidence began to rebuild itself, piece by piece. I even started to look forward to the classes as a time for self-care and reflection. At home, I started cooking healthier meals. I swapped out junk food for fresh fruits and vegetables. Cooking became therapeutic. I found joy in preparing meals that nourished my body. With each healthy dish, I felt empowered, knowing I was taking steps toward a healthier lifestyle. However, the change in me didn't go unnoticed by David. One evening, I prepared a colorful dinner with grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and a vibrant salad. When he sat down to eat, he looked surprised. "Wow, this looks different," he remarked, eyeing the plate skeptically. I smiled, feeling proud of my effort. "I've been trying some new recipes," I said. But instead of encouraging me, David took a jab. "I guess you're finally trying to eat better. Maybe it'll help," he said with a smirk. His words stung, but I refused to let him bring me down. As the weeks passed, I became more involved in my yoga practice and my new healthy habits. I began to feel more like myself again. I enjoyed meeting new people in class and found a supportive community that celebrated each other's journeys. One fateful day at yoga, everything changed for me. I walked into the studio feeling nervous, as I always did, but this time there was something different in the air. As we began our stretches and poses, I tried to focus on the instructor's calming voice, but my mind kept drifting. I felt out of place, like I didn't belong among the other students who seemed so confident and flexible. As the class went on, I noticed a man across the room. He had dark hair and a friendly face that seemed to radiate warmth. During one of the poses, I caught his eye, and he smiled at me. It was a genuine smile, one that made me feel welcomed. I smiled back, surprised by how that simple gesture lifted my spirits, even if just a little. After class ended, I rolled up my mat and was about to leave when the man approached me. "Hey, you did great today," he said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. His words caught me off guard. For the first time in a long while, someone was complimenting me without any hidden motives or jabs about my appearance. It felt refreshing, like a breath of fresh air after being stuck in a stuffy room. "Thank you," I replied, surprised at how easy it was to talk to him. "I'm still learning the poses, but I'm trying." I could feel a smile forming on my face, and it felt nice. I hadn't realized how much I missed just having a normal conversation without fear or judgment. "I'm Daniel, by the way," he said, extending his hand. I shook it, feeling an unexpected warmth in his grip. "I've been coming here for a while. What do you think of the class?" "It's challenging but fun," I said, feeling a spark of excitement. "I like how it helps me relax, even though I often feel overwhelmed." I noticed he was really listening to me, nodding in understanding, which made me feel more comfortable. "I get that. It's a great way to clear your mind. I used to feel nervous, too, but I found that it helps with my focus," Daniel replied, his voice filled with encouragement. We chatted a bit more about our experiences with yoga, and the conversation flowed effortlessly between us. I could feel the tension in my body melting away, replaced by a sense of ease that I hadn't felt in a long time. As we talked, I learned that Daniel had a passion for fitness and loved spending time outdoors. He told me about his favorite hiking trails and how he enjoyed exploring new places. "Maybe you should join me sometime," he suggested with a friendly grin. "It's more fun with a partner." I felt a rush of excitement at the idea. "I'd love that," I replied, my heart racing at the thought of spending time with him outside of yoga. As we wrapped up our conversation, Daniel said, "It was really nice meeting you. I hope to see you again at class." I nodded, feeling a warmth in my chest. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope and connection. After I left the studio, I couldn't help but replay our conversation in my mind. Daniel's kindness and genuine compliments felt like a light breaking through my dark cloud of insecurities. I walked to my car with a smile on my face, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. It was amazing how one friendly encounter could spark a change in my outlook on life. I realized that maybe, just maybe, I was ready to embrace the possibility of new friendships and perhaps something even more. Daniel and I started chatting more after yoga sessions. He would ask me about my day, my interests, and listen with genuine curiosity. I found myself laughing more and feeling lighter in his presence. He made me feel special and appreciated, something I hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, after a particularly challenging yoga class, I rolled up my mat and felt exhausted but happy. As I was about to leave, I saw Daniel standing by the door. He smiled at me and said, "Hey, would you like to grab a smoothie with me?" I felt a flutter of excitement in my stomach, but I also hesitated. What if I made a fool of myself? What if I said something silly? But the thought of spending more time with him made me feel hopeful. After a moment, I nodded and said, "Sure, that sounds great." We walked to a nearby smoothie shop, and I felt a little nervous but also excited. When we arrived, the colorful menu filled with fruity drinks made my mouth water. Daniel ordered a mango smoothie, while I chose a berry one. As we waited for our drinks, I glanced around the shop, taking in the cheerful atmosphere and the sound of laughter around us. Once we had our smoothies, we found a cozy table by the window. We sat down, and I took a sip of my drink. The sweet berry flavor burst in my mouth, and I smiled. "This is delicious," I exclaimed, and Daniel grinned back, clearly happy to be there. As we enjoyed our smoothies, we began talking about everything under the sun. We shared our favorite movies, and I discovered that we both loved comedies. "I can't get enough of funny movies," Daniel said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. I laughed and agreed, remembering all the times I'd watched comedies that made me cry from laughing. Then the conversation shifted to our goals in life. Daniel spoke passionately about his job. "I love helping people," he said, his voice full of excitement. "Every day, I get to make a difference, and it feels amazing." I listened, feeling inspired by his enthusiasm. It was wonderful to hear someone talk about their work with such passion. "I want to help people too," I admitted, feeling a warmth in my heart. "I'm not sure how yet, but I know I want to make a positive impact." Daniel nodded, encouraging me to pursue my dreams. His positivity was contagious, and I found myself feeling more confident as we talked. As our conversation flowed, I couldn't help but notice how easy it was to be with him. He listened attentively, and his laughter was like music to my ears. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen and heard. It was refreshing to be with someone who cared about what I had to say. After finishing our smoothies, we sat for a little while longer, talking and laughing. The sun began to set outside, casting a warm glow in the shop. I felt so happy to have this moment with Daniel, sharing our dreams and stories. It was as if the world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us in our little bubble of joy. When it was time to go, Daniel walked me back to my car. "I really enjoyed today," he said, his smile lighting up his face. "Let's do this again sometime." My heart skipped a beat. "I'd love that," I replied, feeling excited about the possibility of seeing him again. As I drove home, I couldn't stop smiling. Spending time with Daniel had brightened my day and made me feel hopeful. I realized that maybe this friendship could be the beginning of something special. The weight I had been carrying seemed a little lighter, and I looked forward to what the future might hold. As the days turned into weeks, our friendship blossomed. I began to open up to Daniel about my struggles with body image and how David's comments had affected me. To my surprise, Daniel listened without judgment. He encouraged me, telling me that I was beautiful and deserving of love just as I was. I had never felt so seen and valued. Daniel's words resonated deeply within me, sparking a flicker of self-love that had been buried under years of insecurity. As I spent more time with him, I began to see the beauty in myself again. But with my growing feelings for Daniel came confusion. I still loved my marriage vows, but the reality of my relationship with David weighed heavily on me. I felt torn between the past and the new path I was forging. One evening, after a yoga class, Daniel took me for a walk along the beach. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the sand. "Sarah," he said, stopping to look at me, "I need to be honest with you. I really like you. I think we have something special." My heart raced. I felt a rush of emotions, excitement, fear, and guilt all at once. I looked down at the sand, struggling to find the right words. "I like you too, Daniel, but I'm still married," I finally said, my voice trembling. He nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. "I know. But you deserve to be happy. I want to be here for you if you choose to take that step." His kindness overwhelmed me. I realized how far I had come, and that I didn't want to settle for a love that didn't uplift me. That night, I lay in bed next to David, feeling the weight of my decision heavy on my heart. I needed to confront my feelings and the reality of my marriage. It was time to choose happiness, even if it meant letting go of something that had become toxic. The next morning, I sat down with David. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. I explained how I had been feeling trapped and unappreciated. I told him about my journey to self-love and how his words had affected me. David's reaction was defensive. "You're being ridiculous. I was just trying to help you," he yelled. But I stood firm. "This isn't about you helping me. It's about how I feel, and I can't keep pretending everything is okay." The conversation started out calmly, but as we talked, things began to change. Daniel and I were discussing something that had been bothering me for a while. I felt my heart race as I tried to express my feelings, but David seemed to misunderstand me. "You always overreact," he said, rolling his eyes. I could feel my frustration bubbling up inside me. As we continued to talk, our voices grew louder, and the tension in the room thickened. David began to point out all the things he thought I did wrong, and I felt sadness creeping into my heart. I tried to explain my side, but it seemed like he wasn't really listening. It was as if my words were falling on deaf ears. "I just want you to understand how I feel," I pleaded, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. But instead of understanding, David's anger grew. "You're just being dramatic," he shouted, and his words hit me like a slap. I felt a mix of sadness and relief wash over me. Sadness because it hurt to hear him say those things, but relief because I knew I was finally standing up for myself. Deep down, I realized that I had been holding back my feelings for far too long. I had allowed David's comments and criticisms to chip away at my self-esteem, and now it felt like I was on the edge of something new. I knew I had to put myself first, no matter what happened next. It was scary to think about the future, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. As the argument escalated, I felt tears streaming down my cheeks. "I can't keep living like this," I said, my voice trembling. "I need to be happy, and this isn't it." David paused, looking taken aback by my words. It was as if he finally saw the hurt in my eyes. After a long silence, he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Maybe we should just stop talking about it," he said, sounding defeated. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew that the conversation wasn't going to solve everything, but at least I had spoken my truth. By the end of our discussion, it was painfully clear that our marriage was crumbling. We both sat in silence, the room filled with an uncomfortable stillness. I could feel. I took a deep breath, knowing that I was ready to move on. I had spent too long being defined by someone else's standards. I wanted to embrace the life I was building with my newfound strength and self-love. As the days went by, I focused on healing and embracing the journey ahead. I poured my energy into yoga, cooking, and my friendships. I felt lighter without the burden of David's hurtful words weighing me down. Daniel remained by my side as a supportive friend, and our bond deepened. He encouraged me to embrace my passions and discover my true self. With each passing day, I felt more confident and alive than ever. Eventually, after a lot of thinking and soul-searching, I made the tough decision to file for divorce. The thought made my heart race, and a wave of fear washed over me. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the unknown. But deep down, I knew it was necessary. I couldn't keep living in a relationship that made me feel small and unworthy. The nights were filled with uncertainty and worry. I often lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying all the moments that had led me to this point. Each tear that fell reminded me of the hurt I had endured. I thought about the times I felt invisible, the times when David's words stung like 1,000 bees. I realized that I deserved so much more than that. Taking a deep breath, I gathered the courage to move forward. I pictured my future, one filled with love, kindness, and respect. I imagined a life where I could be happy, surrounded by people who appreciated me for who I truly was. I wanted to wake up every day feeling excited about the world around me, not trapped by fear and sadness. As I walked into the lawyer's office, my heart pounded in my chest. The room felt so serious, with its plain walls and heavy wooden desk. But I pushed my nerves aside and focused on why I was there. I wanted to take control of my life again. The lawyer listened to me, nodding as I shared my story. I felt a sense of relief as I spoke. It was the first time I had felt heard in a long time. After filling out the necessary paperwork, I left the office feeling lighter, as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face whatever came next. I had finally taken the first step toward reclaiming my happiness. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on what I truly wanted in life. I started dreaming about new beginnings, about the kind of love I wished to have. I longed for a relationship where I could be myself without fear of judgment, where my feelings would matter, and where I could share my dreams openly. I also focused on myself, my health, my happiness, and my goals. I began going to yoga classes regularly, not just for exercise but for peace of mind. Each stretch and pose helped me reconnect with my body and my spirit. I felt stronger, both physically and mentally, as I embraced this new chapter. In the months that followed, I found strength in my support system, my friends, my yoga community, and Daniel. They helped me navigate the challenges of starting over, and I felt empowered to embrace my life. I learned to love myself fully, understanding that my worth was not defined by my appearance but by my character and kindness. Daniel was patient and understanding, always cheering me on as I took steps toward healing. Eventually, I realized I was ready to open my heart again. Daniel had been there for me through my darkest moments, and his unwavering support had shown me what true love felt like. One evening, under the stars, I turned to him and said, "I think I'm ready for more than friendship." Daniel's eyes lit up with joy when he heard my words. It was as if a light bulb had turned on, brightening the entire room. "I've been waiting for you to say that," he replied, his voice filled with excitement. I could see the warmth in his gaze, and it made my heart flutter. In that moment, everything around us faded away. The chatter of people in the cafe, the clinking of cups, and the music playing softly in the background all disappeared. It was just us, standing there in our little world, full of hope and new beginnings. As I stepped closer to him, I felt a mix of nervousness and happiness. My heart raced, and I could feel butterflies dancing in my stomach. Daniel reached out and gently took my hands in his touch sending a warm sensation through me. It felt safe and comforting, like I had finally found a place where I belonged. Without thinking, I leaned in, and he met me halfway. Our lips touched in a soft kiss that felt like a promise of love, respect, and support. It was sweet and tender, like the first rays of sunshine breaking through the clouds after a long storm. I felt a wave of emotions rush over me, filling the emptiness I had carried for so long. As we pulled back, I looked into Daniel's eyes, searching for reassurance. I found it there, shining brightly. "I'm so glad you're in my life," I whispered, feeling a sense of relief and happiness. Daniel smiled back, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and I couldn't help but smile too. This was different from anything I had experienced before. With Daniel, I felt free to be myself, without fear of judgment or criticism. He accepted me for who I was, flaws and all. It was refreshing to be with someone who appreciated my strength and supported my dreams. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking and laughing, our connection growing deeper with every shared story. I felt a lightness in my heart, as if I had shed the heavy weight of my past. With Daniel, I could envision a future filled with love and joy. Together, we embarked on a new chapter in our lives. I had learned that I deserved to be loved for who I am, and with Daniel by my side, I felt like I could take on the world. I had finally found the happiness I had longed for, and it was just the beginning. Later, Daniel surprised me by proposing. The moment was magical. We were sitting under a starlit sky, the air filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. He took my hand and looked deeply into my eyes, his expression serious yet full of love. "I want to spend my life with you," he said softly. "Will you marry me?" I could hardly believe it. My heart raced with joy, and a smile spread across my face. Yes, I will marry you," I exclaimed, feeling tears of happiness welling up in my eyes. In that moment, everything felt right. Despite knowing that I had gone through a difficult divorce, Daniel didn't care about my past. He loved me for who I was and accepted all my imperfections. We had a beautiful wedding surrounded by our closest friends and family. As I walked down the aisle, I felt like a princess. Daniel stood at the altar, beaming with pride and love. When our eyes met, I knew that this was where I was meant to be. Our vows were filled with promises of love, support, and understanding. It felt like a new beginning, a fresh chapter in our lives. After we got married, we worked hard to build a happy family together. Daniel encouraged me to embrace my body and love myself again. He would often say, "You are beautiful just the way you are." His words were like a balm for my wounded heart, helping me heal and regain my confidence. I started to see myself in a new light, one filled with kindness and acceptance. Together, we created a loving home filled with laughter and joy. We shared our dreams, hopes, and fears, supporting each other every step of the way. Daniel was always there to lift me up when I felt down, reminding me of my worth. I no longer felt the weight of my past holding me back. Instead, I felt empowered and free. We also talked about starting a family. It was a dream we both cherished, and we couldn't wait to share that experience together. Daniel would often talk about how amazing it would be to have kids and how he wanted to be the best father possible. His excitement made me feel hopeful about our future. As the days turned into months, I realized how lucky I was to have Daniel by my side. We built a life together based on love, respect, and happiness. It was a stark contrast to my previous relationship, where I had felt so small. Now, I felt strong and supported, and I knew that I could face any challenge that came our way. With Daniel, I had found my partner, my confidant, and my best friend. We laughed together, faced challenges together, and celebrated each other's successes. Our love was a beautiful journey, and I felt grateful every day for the life we were creating. Together, we were building a family filled with love, kindness, and the promise of a bright future.